Melissa.
Oh, what's up, Clay?
Not much.
Ugh.
Hey, everybody, this is the Turtle Reads.
Sorry.
And Melissa hates the intro already.
That's not the intro. It's just my day. I hate my day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, we have a guest on this one, Craig Fergola.
Hello.
Again, this is the second time on.
Whoo, am
I
I the
know.
only two-time guest?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the first. You're
First.
the,
Hell yeah. I think I was the first actual guest too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Your hair's looking good today.
Keep it
Thank
going.
you. Thank you.
You got a nice little coif right there.
Yeah,
off to the
you know.
side. Very
Yeah.
nice. It's like
Going-
framing your eye.
Go for an emo look, you know?
Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah.
It looks good.
So-
Sorry, I'm being a girl right now.
Okay. Why you had a bad day?
Oh my God. Well, Gene got that house. So
Oh, shit.
yeah. So now we got to start working on it. But we keep going through this thing where he goes, we should do this. And I'm like, all right. Do you understand what that entails? He's like, yeah, we'll do it. Right. And then we do it. And then he's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to do this. So today we were trying to sand the walls. And we were sanding the walls. Right. And I'm like, okay, we're doing it. Right. And I'm like, okay, this is based on how long this is taking. This would probably take us like 2 weeks, right? And he's just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Are you doing it by
What?
Are you doing it by hand? You didn't get like a machine sander?
Yeah, no machine, no Mexican, nothing.
No.
It's just us.
No,
Yeah.
get a machine like a.
Oh no, yeah, we got a machine sander. Yeah, we got
okay.
electric
Yeah.
sander.
Yeah, electric
Sorry,
sander.
I didn't hear that. But yeah, even with an electric, I'm not just like fucking.
I love how you thought machine sander, I meant Mexican. That's like how racist you think
Well,
I
I
am.
didn't think that. I just wanted to throw that in there. That's how racist I am. But it was not easy, even though it was an electric sander.
Yeah.
It still is labor intensive. It's tedious.
I'm pretty sure there's large sanders that you could get to do whole walls.
We got a
though.
big one. We got a small one.
All right.
Nah.
I mean,
Hey, at least you got a house, you know?
I know. Yeah. I mean, well, for as long as we can manage to hold on to it. I don't know. As fucking debt slaves to the
Did
bank.
you rent it or buy it?
Gene bought it. So yeah. And that was another example of what I mentioned before. So it's just been really stressful because we're trying to wrap our heads around what that's going to be like for the next, what would you say, 30 years?
yeah, no,
Something like that.
That's a big. Y'all literally just got
It's huge.
married, and y'all bought a house that y'all need to fix up together.
I know.
That's
But she
a-
keeps saying that Gene bought the house.
That is a good point. Are you
Yeah.
just? Are
I'm
you?
not, with my comedy money and my drink
Well,
tickets,
you're
I'm going to
married
go
now.
buy a house.
Yeah.
yeah. You're married now.
Nah,
so
I don't know. I don't believe in that crap.
I need to marry a woman.
I don't know.
I need to
I
marry
can't-
a woman who
can't.
has a house. That's what I need to do.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Well, you get maybe one that inherited a house or something. That's kind of more accessible.
I dated one for a while. She had a house and didn't work out.
Oh. She's breaking up with you. You're saying goodbye to the house.
You're
putting the
I
walls. And she's like,
really like that house.
Craig, are you listening to me? You're just like, goodbye, sweetie.
Yeah. The house and her
So
dog.
nice.
I really liked them both. I was like, how about you just take my apartment? I'll keep your house and your dog.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you still pay for it.
Sometimes I think that's why certain kinds of murder happen when it comes out in the news, right? And it's like, and then he wrapped her up in a rug and threw her in the closet, right? I think it's just because he loved everything else about the chick's life
Yeah.
except for the chick,
Mhm.
and he's just like
Yeah.
doing the math.
Now you tell me that was an option.
Yeah, it's not good to be friends with me. I'll encourage you to do pretty much everything bad, but yeah, lie, cheat, and steal.
well,
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
So on today's podcast, we're going to be doing the Dark Tower comic book series based off the Dark Tower novels by Stephen King.
Please, they're a graphic novel.
Graphic novels. Sorry.
We're learned.
I've had
We're
this-
learned people on this
I've had this
podcast.
conversation with her. Comic book and graphic novel to me is the same fucking thing.
I call them picture books.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
One has a way better chance of getting you laid if you tell someone you read graphic novels as opposed to comic books.
Well, but the kind of person, the kind of female that you would get laid with graphic novels is also kind
Still
of a
gonna-
creep.
Yeah,
It's going to
that's
be
true.
some chick who's getting her master's in creative lit or some bullshit.
Yeah.
She's working out her own.
Probably likes to get
And really,
choked.
she wants you to read hers. Is what the problem is there.
You mean my other ex-girlfriend?
Your
who's
other
in grad school
ex-girlfriend.
right now, getting her master's in poetry?
Damn, girl, you get around, man.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because you get that You got that working man intellectual kind of vibe.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm just like fucking
blue
Will
collar.
Hunting. That's
Yeah,
me.
Not good.
Old Craig Hunting.
Craig Hunting.
I'm much more like the Ben Affleck character in that movie than I am the Matt Damon.
That's a good guy too, though.
Yeah, he's great. You know?
They acted like he was just some fucking schlub, but he was nice.
I mean, I'm certainly not Casey Affleck in that movie. He stinks.
Yeah, fuck that. Do you just date? What kind of girls are attracted to you?
Whoever will have me. That's who I date.
That's such a man answer.
I'm not picky.
Okay, all right. What's the best you've gotten so far?
Like of all time,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to rank them like that.
Mm,
But
mhm.
I was, I've
That's
been
okay.
like in love like probably 3 times in my life.
Who's the best?
Probably the one like right out of high school. We were both in college.
He was like, I don't want to rank them. The one right out of high school.
We were both in college together.
She
and she was,
tasted
yeah, she messed me up bad. The
The
last one was still kind of getting over that one. That one was rough too, but
okay.
you know,
Yeah.
they didn't support my dream.
Really? What was it at the time?
I back in high school, like not to die of heroin, probably.
They don't want to support you there. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if they don't want to support you there, where the fuck can you
Yeah,
go
I
with
know,
them?
right?
Yeah.
What am I?
Hmm.
I didn't know this was going to be a dating life.
Dude, how long you been sober now? You
Just
reached
had a year on December 15th.
yeah, you reached a milestone. I saw.
Congrats.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
congrats,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
How do you feel living a less vibrant life?
It's better, but it also kind of stinks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's better not having to have the double life. That for sure is
Yeah, that's probably.
not waking up like, all right, how am I going to get money to get high today?
Yeah. Well, you
That's-
just have to hustle every day.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's all that's on your
yeah,
mind.
it's terrible.
And that was the part that you didn't like, the part that it was a job.
Well, that and like how my family didn't want me around and my friends didn't want me around and my life was a living nightmare. There was way more bad things than good things. But then it's like you stop doing everything and life still gets really hard and you have to feel feelings and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's, I don't want to do that ever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we're all still grinding
Yeah.
towards the end.
Life
Yeah.
still happens.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't have a coping mechanism anymore when that was your coping mechanism
Mhm.
for 20 years.
Yeah. What about just fucking getting a fetish for suffering
Oh, I mean, I'm
from
I'm-
life?
I was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic in New England. That's deeply ingrained.
Yeah,
in
what
me.
the fuck?
Yeah,
You're already equipped.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had a way to forget about it for a long time.
Or
now
so
it's
you
like,
thought.
Yeah.
Now you just got to be Catholic
Yeah.
again.
Oh, no. I can't do that. Can't do that.
Hey, I'm from a Latin American, island, so Catholic is.
Yep.
But we're more of the. It's like it's on the fringes of the Catholic world. So it's all hypocritical, slightly pagan.
Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So it's just
Oh, I thought the Dominican was like voodoo or something.
no. That's Haiti.
Okay.
The Dominican has some lamer version of it,
Mhm.
but
Brujeria?
all of the Caribbean has a version of it.
Okay.
Brujeria is just kind of the general term. Santeria is Cuba. Haiti has voodoo, and DR has a thing called spiritism or whatever, which is just some.
And they're just like kind of like little Catholic offshoots, right? Like it's Catholicism, but like,
Well, you know how they always say that Catholicism is how they managed to convert pagans.
Yeah.
Right. Because what they would do is that the saints would just be a placeholder for former
okay, one of
gods.
the gods. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They would kind of. So in the Caribbean, same shit, except for some of them are West African gods from
Okay,
like
yeah.
Nigeria, from a really, in Cuba, it's a really specific tribe. Even.
I've heard Santeria is wild.
Santeria is great. I had friends. If you go to New York City,
Mhm.
the projects, there are so many Puerto Ricans that practice Santeria over there, just in the projects, and so it's good in an area like that because people, when you're around people where there's a lot of petty crime and shit, people that are like that, they're very superstitious. So if you say you're a witch, they don't fuck with you. You know what I mean? This is very clever. Like my grandmother used to read tarot cards during the Dominican Republic's worst dictatorship, and they didn't fuck with her because they thought she was a witch. You know what I mean?
That's a good life hack. If
it is a good, especially as a lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just go, yeah, I can't punch you in the face, but I'll fucking
cast a spell on you.
Yeah, make your dick fall off. Don't fuck with me. Right? So, and then she would read their future and shit. So she got away with a lot because of that and lived okay. And then in the projects, one time I got invited to a Santeria event, basically, which it was like, oh, come to my grandmother's birthday party, right? And I'm like, all right, cool, right? So I show up to grandma's been dead for 10 years. Okay, so basically,
they just got her body on a table, like they dug her up.
No, even creepier, if you can believe it. I get in there and they're like, yeah, come say hi to my grandma, right? And the grandma is just a life-size doll sitting in a rocking chair, right? Oh, no. And it's not like I could just go and like shake her hand and be like, hey, lady, happy birthday. It was even crazy. They were like, okay, so take this orange peel and ring the bell 3 times, right? And I'm like,
Jesus.
Okay. And I'm like, are we gonna drink? I'm just like, is this gonna be a party at all? And then, but it was a musical like Santeria event, right? Okay. So I got invited by a drummer that I knew. So these guys set up and they
just play that Sublime song over and over again.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they drink Fago, but it's like, so they start playing, right? And I got as close to the wall and out of the way as I could because I was like, this shit is fucking weird, right? Yeah. So I kind of knew what was coming though. So they're playing, and basically what they do is they play for like 4 hours straight. They don't stop. It's improvised, polyrhythmic.
So you went to a Fish concert essentially.
They basically did. Yeah, I went to like a Cuban jam band event. It really was. It's very similar, right? So the only difference is that in jam bands, people will just do Molly, I guess, and wig out, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
In this one, it's completely psychological, right? So they try to whip themselves up into like an ecstasy, like a divine.
So like people speaking tongues,
like whirling dervishes.
Yeah.
So people start speaking tongues. People start eating candle wax. People start fucking pouring hot wax on their faces, and they start fucking dancing.
It sounds awesome. Actually,
it was great. It was great. I just tried to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Then somebody came up to me and they blessed me with some water. It's very disorienting. So I could see why you would, get into that. But it's kind of like those Christian events too, right? Where they touch you and then you just start rolling around the floor.
Yeah, well, that's like they speak in tongues. They speak it, and then they do
the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Spirit takes them, and they start.
Yeah. But it's just slightly West African paganish Catholicism. We're taking a lot of liberties.
It's all the same shit, really.
Once the Spaniards left the Caribbean for a while to fight the 100 Years' War, everybody was just fucking each other and eating goat and doing weird shit.
Sounds. I've had fresh goat meat, and it is delicious.
It's delicious, yeah, stew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of we could segue into this.
Oh yeah, because speaking of the witches and shit, there's one note that I kind of wanted to get on. I was about to just talk about it with her before the podcast. That I wanted to ask you, whenever that witch lady, what's her name?
Ray of the Coos.
Whenever she was talking to Susan Delgado, and she she hypnotized her and shit.
Yep.
Susan goes to Rhea to make sure she's able to have a child and stuff.
No, she goes to her so she can check that she's a virgin.
Yeah,
yeah. So she got finger blasted by some old crone. Is basically what happened.
And then
it gets really graphic in the book. It talks about the witch shoving her fingers inside her.
Dude, they do that they used to do that in DR. We're still in this. Women will check if their kids are virgins. They'll just straight up like get in there and check for the hymen or whatever. That's still a thing in some places. Yeah.
And so whenever she hypnotized her and then like whispered something into her ear, back whenever like witches were like a thing, it was commonly thought that whenever a woman had a child and that child was a midget, that she was cursed by a witch. So that's what I thought she was doing. I thought she was cursing this chick to have like a crippled kid or like a midget. But then it ended up just being her cutting her hair.
Yeah, cutting her hair off.
What? Why?
Because she would make her less desirable to Thorin. And just to fuck with her, really. She's a bitch. She just doesn't,
I thought that was like some kind of like thing in the world.
No, I don't think it had any specific significance.
Look, that witch is a woman. Yeah. At the end of the day, she's a woman, and all women care about is if they want to get back at you, how to make you less pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
she's mad because she's old and gross.
Okay.
Susan's young and hot.
Prettiness is our power. And that's how you fight each other is by removing
I
prettiness.
also feel like I think I remember this from the book. I
lamest
think she was trying to
fight
get
ever.
her to. I think she was trying to hypnotize her to kill Thorin in his sleep too after they had sex. I think
That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
I think that is part of it too in the book because
Right.
this is very short. They leave a ton of stuff out.
Yeah.
But they get all the major beats. But I think that happened in the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we in issue 1, we get introduced to Roland and their whole group in Martin Broadcloak's kind of
Yeah, he's okay.
group
So,
of kids trying to be gunslingers. During Roland's fight across the Mohaine Desert, he recalls the treachery of
Martin Broadcloak.
Martin
Which is
Broadcloak.
also that guy's like have either one of you read The Stand?
No, I've been meaning to.
Well,
It's supposed to
Randall
be good,
Flagg
right?
is the bad guy from The Stand,
Yeah.
and Martin is actually they're all the same guy. It's like it gets revealed. There's Walter O'Dim. He has a bunch of different names, but it's the same kind of like evil wizard guy who works for the Crimson King. It's like his main
Same
Okay.
archetype or literally the same
person,
guy?
literally same person. Yeah,
That's interesting. I've seen other authors do that, like Lovecraft does that,
Yeah.
where slowly every short story just starts to expand on, and it's the same
the
people.
books
you
it gets
see.
really wild. He's like Father Callahan from Salem's Lot is a big character. The characters from other books, he writes himself into it, and later in later novels, and like he talks about when he actually got run over and almost killed at his camp. Like that's a part of the story. It gets really meta, like going into like the 5th or 6th book. It's really it's confusing, really, but
Is it?
it's he wrote this over like 35 or 40 years, so it's
I read the prologue. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that. He was talking about it throughout how he started in like 84, 87, and he didn't end until 2003
I
or
think
something.
he wrote The Gunslinger when he was like a freshman in college, and I
Yes,
don't think it
I mean-
got published till way later on. But
Yeah.
that was in like the
Oh.
early 70s.
Right. Yeah. And then he didn't finish this until 2007,
7, I think, or around
yeah, something along that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And but I mean, all his books have like a lot of the same towns that are either real towns in Maine or he made up. But Derry from it is Bangor, Maine. Like, he's just changed the name, and it's like his whole world. Like a lot of things overlap.
You're talking about Gunslinger? The
No,
landscape,
I'm just Stephen
or
King in general.
okay.
Like a lot of
Yeah,
his
he
stuff.
does that.
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
that a lot.
Lovecraft does that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. I noticed that there are a lot of names and sort of idiomatic expressions in this apocalyptic world that are that seem to have an origin in maybe Scots, Irish, British.
But yeah, they have their own language. They call it
You're
the high
from-
speech.
You're from Maine though, so that's
Yeah.
kind of your background. Do you recognize any of that stuff instinctively? You know, when
No.
they keep saying sigh or
No,
whatever?
thank you, sigh, and cry your
that
pardon,
look
or like I
familiar
beg
to
your
you?
pardon is an expression. But I mean, like, I don't know where he got all that from. They have their own very distinct language. It's called the high speech in the books.
But this doesn't look familiar to
No,
you.
this is not like anything. No, it did have that dumb, offshoot of a Boston accent if that was the case. But my heritage is French Canadian and Italian, so I don't
French, Canadian, Italian.
I don't know what that whole thing's coming from, but it's they have a very distinct way of talking that kind of it gets to in this, but in the books it's because like in the books he'll get to he goes into like our world, Roland will, and he starts talking to people and they can't understand him because he just has all these weird phrases and he can't say certain words. Like he calls tuna fish, tutor fish, and there's all this like weird stuff like that. But yeah, they have a very distinct way. So it's like the world they're in is like our world, but like one door over. You know what I mean? There's like doors you can go through to different universes and stuff. And it's in the first book, you'll read it. He goes into a piano and they're playing Hey Jude, which I think they allude to in here at one point.
Yeah, I've noticed that they do that.
Yeah. So but it's like different lyrics slightly. And it's just really, it gets really weird. It's really cool, but it's like,
Yeah. Well, the reason why I asked is because some of the words, like when they said, do you kenna, right? That's Scottish. I know
Kenna?
that from
Yeah.
reading Scottish poetry. That's little things like that. So I just saw a lot of Scots, Irish-y kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And also, he said that he got the inspiration for this story from watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Clint Eastwood, the man with no name.
But you got
Yeah.
to see it on the big screen, which must have been amazing. Have you seen that movie?
That's Good, Bad, and the Ugly is
Such a great movie.
like my second or third favorite movie.
It's amazing.
Ever. I love it. Yeah.
I would love to see it on the big screen.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
I think it would be hilarious to see some of these old West, like a gunslinger looking dude, but speaking with a Boston accent. That
Right.
shit would be hilarious.
Yeah.
But talking about the world, so I love world building shit like that.
Mhm.
Is this like? Would you say this is like a post-apocalyptic world, like, or a rapture type thing?
No,
or
it's a different
alternate dimension.
Yeah. If anything,
Okay.
it's an alternate dimension. 'Cause-
Okay.
And that is kind of explained to you when you read the books, because it doesn't give you a lot of background here. So you could easily think that it's like that because they have like the oil tankers and you can see those, but it's
like there's a whole fucking tank that
Right.
Shimi goes in, but then it's a fucking robot cyborg thing in there, and I'm like, okay, is this post-apocalyptic and there's tanks left?
I mean,
or?
it probably is post-apocalyptic for whatever universe or
whatever
world they're in,
event.
but
Yeah.
it's like there's a whole thing with doors. You can go through a door and it will bring you somewhere else, and it's like, yeah, you're just like a one step off from whatever world we're in, and they go into that one. They go into our world, like in the books, and then they'll go back into other stuff. It jumps all over the place.
They don't do that in this first one though, because I don't recall seeing that.
It's weird because this is called The Gunslinger, and it's telling this story. But this story in the books is book 4.
I figured.
I mean,
I had a feeling.
chronologically, it happens. It's one of the first things that happens to Roland because he's a young kid. But this is like, you don't get to this till like the 4th book when he's sitting around a campfire telling them a story, telling them this story.
Mhm.
So they in the graphic novels, I guess they just did it chronologically. But this is, the story gets alluded to in the first 3 books a lot, like how he fell in love with this woman and she gets killed, but you never really find out. And then they ask him to tell him. So they're like sitting around a campfire one night and then he just goes into this whole story.
And this is this story.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So this is kind of like an Arabian Nights scenario where we're inside the actual story, where we're in the story that's inside another story.
Yeah.
So I don't have any context
it's very,
for that.
It's very Inception-y.
Yeah. This is so deep. Oh my God.
So yeah, the Roland, he goes and recalls the treachery of Martin Broadcloak, the sin of his mother, his test of manhood against his teacher Court, and the night that followed. So he goes and does battle with Martin Broadcloak, which is with a falcon.
No, he does battle with Court, who's like
right.
his teacher, teaches kids how to be gunslingers.
Kind of bigger, fat dude who uses a spear.
He had like a staff.
Yeah, staff thing. I wish they would have done more with the falconry. I like falconry in books. I don't know why.
That's a huge part. Like that whole scene is like very,
What do you want them to do with it though?
Like he did. He had the falcon attack the dude and
that's
poke
cool.
his eye out. That was super dope.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
He ripped the dude's eye out. I'm like, yeah. And then the bird died. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, he just ripped the bird apart.
Yeah, he fucks that bird up.
Yeah, I was like, fuck.
But that's kind of,
I wanted to
That
see
is true
more.
though. No, well, it's kind of inconsistent too, because if falconry is such an important part of their training, why don't they give them some falcons on the way out or something?
They probably do. That was just like, because the whole thing about when he challenged him is like he was like 14, I think, when that happens. That usually doesn't happen until
He was
you're
doing
like
it early.
17 or 18, because if you lose, you're exiled.
Because
So-
his dad was the youngest to have
Yeah, and he was like
passed the
16
test.
or something. when it
Yeah,
happened.
and then he was younger than his father. He said so. Yeah, that was. But still, I'm like, man, I would love to see way more stuff with falcons.
Well, and the whole like, because he's like it's his pet, David the bird, right? So like, that's kind of a overarching theme in the whole thing of like Roland sacrificing things that he's close with to get closer to the Dark Tower. Like there's a bunch of those where he just lets people die or kills them or like because they're in his way. So that's like a big theme throughout it, that he'll sacrifice anything to reach the Dark Tower.
Well, it's not necessarily that. Well, I don't know because I haven't read these in there. I haven't read all of them, but there is a archetype of the man who seeks the highest level of something, like mastery over something.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, every single step of the way, you do have to sacrifice something that's equally as important, because otherwise it's I think
Opportunity cost?
it's sure. Okay. Yeah. let's make it corporate.
If we're thinking of it like a business,
that aligns with
turn this whole story
doesn't
into
have to
a
just
corporate
be business.
Yeah.
That's not just a business term.
well, and I think in this specifically, it's
Roland Deschain was trying to seek a level of productive synergy in order to achieve the level of.
Well, it's also an analogy for like every Stephen King book, right? Like there's a writer, and except for these, there's someone who's a writer, and there's someone who's addicted. And I think like his quest for the tower is very much like it's an analogy for addiction, right? Because he'll forsake everything to get where he wants to go, which is the same as when you're a junkie or a drug. Like that's a theme in it's almost every single book he writes. There's either someone who's just outright addicted to drugs, or they have this thing that they're willing to sacrifice everything for to get to that.
Yeah. I mean,
addiction is an interesting angle. Yeah. I was thinking more of like a Julius Caesar kind of deal.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think that would play into it too. You know, there's a God, he has a God complex for sure.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, that fits. He definitely, with the whole thing with his mom and that, is Martin Broadcloak that fucks his mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
With that whole thing, I mean, he basically was just like, all right, I'm going to sacrifice my whole relationship with her.
Well, all right. Well, do you guys, do you want me to give, I don't think they talk about it in here, but do you want a quick little spoiler?
No.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
I know there's something there. That's the thing. I can see it in the writing. And so I just want to know, I want to find out about
which
myself.
I thought they talked about that in this. They don't.
They don't.
There's like a big,
Yeah, I mean, there's too much there.
Yeah.
You have to address that because that's like, what? Why is she fucking him? What happened? How did that? What is really happening?
Yeah.
Is she actually?
That's a whole thing, and it ends really badly.
I bet there's some plot twist there, and she's actually
for sure
good or something.
Okay.
But yeah, she actually. I will drop in real quick as a chick, right? It's interesting to read literature like this because this comes from this era of literature that was dominated by just women being like fucked and then just thrown away.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun because I grew up reading that as a girl, right? So I'm growing and I love these books. So, so I had to kind of reconcile with that shit as I was reading it that every single, like there's a scene where he gets the guns, right? And he's like, he trained to achieve this gun, this weapon, and now he will find a whore in order to use his other weapon. Right? And it's just
his other gun, I think
his other gun. And it's just some bitch, right? And she's naked, right? And it's just funny to read that every time.
Well, then his father comes in and you're like, bitch, get the fuck out of here.
Father comes in, literally pulls a gun on the girl, is like, get the fuck out. And that's the last you see of her.
Well, I understand that particular snippet of that scene because one time I was smoking weed in my friend's place with some other people, right? And I was lighting up this guy's bong, right? And I didn't know this, but the guy whose apartment we were all hanging out in, he had a friend who was a drug dealer. He owed money to the Bloods in that vicinity, right? So, as outspoken and assertive as I may come across, right? I know how to girl in order to survive immediately, right?
That's it.
So this guy comes in with his fucking enforcer, right? I'm right by the door, so right? So he comes in, the guy stands right in front of the door, his enforcer, right? He comes in
Never a good
looking like Stephen Deshane, that same vibe, right? This fucking dude, right? And he's like, yo, where's Mac? And I just girled so hard. Like right there, I got the stupidest, dumbest broad look on my face that I could muster. It was instinct because I was 16. So it's instinct, right? It's in my genetics to just kind of be like, oh, I don't know. You want some weed? And fucking tie my hair up into pigtails and just be like, I don't know anything. And he just kind of looked at me like, dumb bitch, right? Like in his head, he didn't say it. He didn't insult me. But then he just kind of went, all right. And then he just left and went over to the guy. I don't know what he said to that guy, but that guy cried by the time
he went full girl too.
He also did that. He's like, where's my money? He's like, I don't know.
He's twisting his hair in a pigtail.
He's pushing his pecs together to look like cleavage. He's like,
I can blow you.
Want to titty fuck me and we'll figure it out.
Right. So that scene, I have no issue with that scene. And I don't have an issue with any of it. It's just that I read a lot of literature growing up where women were basically this thing that you just fuck them, throw them away. Like and then they don't even have a way to, like, it's a guy writing about women. There's certain, and it's the 80s and they're on cocaine. So there's shit that they don't think about. Like there's a girl in this book that is masturbating when the wizard comes back. I read it in a novel when he's doing some witchcraft or some shit like that. Like They make the women.
It's the aunt. Yeah, he like pops in to talk to her and Eldred,
right,
or Jonas, whatever. Yeah.
So all these women are just these holes that are just pining for male attention.
And that's westerns too, right?
And
like
this
the whole western genre, women are punched in the face and thrown out the door. There's no like, and this is very much like a very cinematic western, and the book is like that too.
I grew up in the Bronx. I get it.
Yeah, but there's more in the books. Is more psychology. You get way more into the characters, but this is like. This reads like a movie, you know what I mean? You can see, I mean, obviously there's pictures in it, but it's very like there's these big sweeping scenes and it's very much a Western. Yeah.
And then his father sends them three, Cuthbert, Elaine, and Roland, to Hambry in the East to start figuring out if they could get horses, and also to figure out what the fuck this dude's doing with the...
I think he sends them there so they don't get killed, because...
Well, yeah, that too, but also to figure out, like, okay, is this dude getting oil, and how is he get, and how set up are they and everything? And then, they show us the Crimson King, which that was whenever they first showed, like, the first bit of magic type shit with the spheres and all that shit. Do each of those spheres do different shit?
Yes. Okay, each one's there's a whole rainbow of them, but they don't. They only get into like a couple of them.
The pink one and the black one, I think.
Yeah, there's like one or two others throughout, but it's not like the Infinity Stones. They're all. Yeah. It's kind of like the other wizards in the Lord of the Rings. Like you have Saruman, Gandalf, the Radagast, and then there's like three other ones that nobody talks about. Yeah. They mention them. Those are kind of like the other spears.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just getting high somewhere.
Yeah.
They're just drinking at a bar.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And then the Martin Broadcloak dude, he ends up fleeing to Gilead after escaping arrest. And Roland and his friends, they go to Hambry, where almost right away he meets Susan, which was hilarious. I always find it weird whenever the main character immediately like just happens upon the damsel in distress,
the hottest woman in the land.
The hottest woman in the land, who also is the main focal point of his whole quest at that point and everything.
Well, and she's
the daughter of the dude they were sent to.
She's kind of a whore, because they talk about it in the books a little bit, like because the relationship's way longer in the book. Like this one, they meet, they fuck, and that's pretty. You know what I mean? That happens. The relationship it builds a little bit more. But Bert is like kind of gets jealous because Roland's getting laid and he wants to, and this girl's beautiful. And at one point in the book, she kisses Bert like on the lips.
How dare she?
Wow. And she talks about, she's like, man, if I had met him before, and it's after she had met Roland. She's like, if I had met Bert before I met Roland, this might have been a whole nother thing.
Is Bert the psychic or the one with
Bert's the wise ass?
The one with the raven skull?
Yeah. Okay. He's a smart ass one.
Okay.
And so that's a bit like, she's like, ooh, if I had met him before Roland, I think I would have fallen for him first. So she's just looking to get out of there. She's just a small town girl looking to get the fuck out of there.
I get that. Yeah. Well, she
doesn't want to fuck an old man, which who can blame her?
Yeah. And Roland was probably the first dude she met.
Who was young
dude,
athletic, right?
Yeah.
Disciplined,
brooding,
young,
those are the two, and brooding. He's like,
that's the two best specimens for sex for miles around.
Smooth, like with how he talked to her.
He talks like clinic, like everything's like this little quip that's like so badass. You know what? Yeah.
Laconic speech. Yeah.
Stephen King makes a lot of the chicks in the book a whore, right? I'm wondering,
Stephen King is kind of known for having like weird, awkward sexual stuff in all of his books.
Like it.
Very much like it.
Yeah.
But there's like,
where there's worse. There's a gangbang.
In The Stand, a guy
gets
raped with the barrel of a gun in prison. Or no, out of prison. But then he's like, oh, it didn't bother. And he's also like retarded.
Would it be better if it was in prison or out of prison?
Well, because because he knows it's happening. He's like, well, this is just like when I was in prison. So it doesn't even bother me. And the guy is like a retarded dude who sets fires. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird shit in his books.
I get if you're going to theorize what a chick would do in a post-apocalyptic world, which was basically just our ancient world.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Mongols and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
I bet being a whore would probably, if you knew how to swing it, it would be advantageous. It's kind of what you got.
It worked for Coco Chanel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would say, like, if you want to go travel across Europe, there's nothing better than to just put your tits out and just kind of hold your arms up, stand outside, and just let marauding Mongols just sweep you up.
It's what
And
chicks on Instagram
now
do
you're
now.
in France.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Just on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Roland, he goes to the city of Hambry, figures out it's still dangerous. Like, he thought that he was going to have like his father's group was going to have allies there, but pretty much they're all working for Martin.
Yep.
And they have a big group of, or not a big group, but the main group of like assassins there known as the Big Coffin Hunters.
Yes.
Which I told you is one of the dumbest names for a gang.
First of all, shut
I've
up.
ever
It's
heard.
awesome.
I think it's all right.
It's
I
fucking awesome.
I had no problem with
Yeah.
coffin hunters.
Big Coffin Hunters?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Like,
It sounds kind of Native American-ish, sort of.
Coffin Hunters is much more concise and would be more like mysterious. Like,
Yeah.
Big Coffin Hunter. What the
Big
fuck?
coffin hunter does
Big is
kind
not
of mean.
necessary.
Yeah. Hello, you have. I would like your biggest coffins because
what the
it's like you. You just get everything.
Well, I mean, objectively, you're wrong. It's
like
awesome.
It's like joke.
It's very cool.
Joke coffins, like when you get those big glasses that are too big for your head.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that name feels
It's like, look how tiny he looks in that coffin.
No, it's more like,
hilarious.
hey, look how many guys we killed. We need more than a regular sized coffin to fit them all in there.
That's gay.
No, it's not. It's awesome. It's not. You guys are
That
wrong.
sounds so homoerotic.
Oh, man.
Listen, we need your biggest coffin. We're gonna. It's not what you think. We're just gonna put many men in there.
Well, first of all, that accent is racist. Very terrible. It's not even a good.
I don't know
main
what accent it is. It's not any accent in particular.
It's
kind
you
of
were
just
trying to do a New England accent, and it's super offensive.
I think it's pretty good. All right, look. My accent's good, and Big Coffin Hunters is a great name for a gang. How
Thank you.
about that?
Let's
All right,
move
cool.
on.
Shit on it.
Back to the horse.
But yeah, and then they meet the Big Coffin Hunters, and they have that standoff in that saloon or whatever the
So
fuck.
awesome, dude.
Wait, no. That is the most ridiculous standoff. They were all.
What are you talking about?
No.
No, okay, they're all at the front
That's
door.
a standard awesome standoff. That's
Okay.
that's in
Wait,
culture.
Wait,
We know.
I know, but I'm saying the setup of it. All right, they're all at one front door of the saloon. Then one of them walks in, and he pulls a slingshot on a dude and shoots his finger to where he knocks the gun off. Cool, fucking dope. Then another dude walks in behind and pulls a gun on him, still in the doorway. Then a dude walks in behind him with a knife, still in the doorway.
Yeah.
They are all running into each other outside this door. There's two more people to come. How are they not
You
just
have
like...
to suspend disbelief here. Oh, there's also a canyon with a force field of a monster inside it that has tentacles.
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah. This is a
good
I have a
point.
note about that one.
That's awesome too. And they're not all just like
that one.
standing outside and be like, "Oh, now I'll jump in." It's like they're hiding and they sneak up on each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Look, it does have
Jesus.
sort of a Looney Tune-ish kind of.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
have you ever seen a Western before?
Yeah.
This stuff like guys don't really stand in it, like in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Guys don't really stand like this and stare at each other and then pull their guns out. You know what I mean? That doesn't. It's not how they didn't really have. Meet me at 12 noon, high noon on the street.
They weren't that poetic.
As I was,
in other words,
reading
naturally.
it, I was just imagining them like in line outside the door, just like, okay, your turn to go and be
Yeah,
sneak
I
up
don't
behind the
think
guy.
that was what it was.
After you know, I think it's your turn.
Exactly.
No,
This
it's
is
my
my
guy's
enemy.
next, so
Yeah.
now your guy has to go in.
No, you go.
Otherwise, we're gonna look really stupid.
Yeah.
If I'm holding a knife to my own friend's throat, that's gonna, that wouldn't play at all.
Yeah.
I was just like, and it's great. I love the standoff part. It was, with the slingshot and everything. It's cool. It's just I was just like,
The
And
logistics.
then Roland, he's just like, no more talking. Talking's done. Put it down and you die. That's it's all like every time he speaks, it's just like the most badass thing.
that's called laconic speech. It's Spartans. Laconia is where they're originally from, and it's
Also, a town in New Hampshire. There's a bike week there every year. That's pretty big.
Oh yeah, that's not surprising. Yeah.
but yeah, it's actually what most action stars base their speech off of.
Yeah.
Is laconic speech, just simple, real quick quips.
Yeah.
And
That's every Clint Eastwood movie. It's Charles Bronson. It's all
Yeah.
these characters that he's based on. Yeah. So
Mhm. That's really interesting.
yeah,
I didn't know that either. That is cool because they all
That's why, honestly, 300 is actually pretty with this is Sparta and shit. That's actually pretty accurate with how they spoke. They've literally just spoken like action movie like sentences.
That's
Ancient Greek. One time I looked up a few words in ancient Greek just to kind of get a feel for the syntax and stuff, and I found out that they only write in all caps, no spaces, so they just write psychotically
Constantly
all
yelling.
the time. Right? It's just like, we need to go to get the goat before the invaders, right? And it's just like, okay. And then they apparently also had a kind of speech thing quirk that we do, which is where we go like and They have the same things.
wow.
They did
So
that also.
They literally
were also
wrote like
ditzy.
every one of my ex-girlfriends ever. Like,
Yeah, they were like,
I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
That- Yikes.
So now with the laconic speech, that's really kind of bringing it around to getting a pretty interesting picture of how they actually spoke to each other. And
That was mostly in Sparta though. Well,
there were interactions. Spartans in
definitely.
Athens, they fought for.
That
It's
would be
so- 'cause you
hilarious.
think-
One of them yelling and the other one just being like, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
Because when you think of like people talking back then, you think of everything as like so flowery and poetic. That's really cool that they're just like,
Yeah.
Well, that's because of translators. British translators basically made everybody think that. Because they would just
Okay.
translate these
That makes
plays, and
sense.
so, and they would just be like, and then so clearly what they're saying here is, "Verily goeth alongeth the path," and really they were probably saying something like, "You got a fucking problem, bro." Yeah.
well, it's like, when you watch a movie, people speak, because you want it to sound or when you write, you want it to sound poetic and you want the prose to be nice too. But people don't actually. You ever seen like someone who like, although this is like your one tough guy friend who tries to like make quips like that in real life and then just always gets his face punched in.
Yeah.
Wait,
Who
what?
the hell do you think you're talking to? And like he just wants to talk and sound badass,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he can't actually fight.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just gets the shit kicked out of him all the time.
Those are people who talk a lot.
Yeah.
They don't
That's it.
do a
Like
lot.
real crazy people, like all my friends who knew how to fight, they didn't say shit. They just punched you in the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
No, that's
It's like a bear coming at you.
Yeah.
Bears don't make a sound when they're going to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing security work. I hear that a lot. Like just like the people who talk shit, and then every now and then there's one that's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the king. I'm the king."
You don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
who the fuck
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
Shit like that, and I'm like,
Like wrestling
God,
syntax kicks
Or they
in.
do the whole like the middle school, like you hit me first. No,
Yeah.
you hit me first. Like that. Tough people never do. They just knock your teeth out.
Who are
Yeah.
you? Who do you think you are? Yeah. I actually I saw that at what's that mic on Tuesdays that is really Anderson Mill.
Oh, Jesus.
I saw a fight break out in Anderson. And there's a bunch of townies, they're drunk, and that was exactly
Every
what
time
they
I've
were
ever
saying.
been there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's almost a fight.
Yeah. They're like, "You want to start something?"
Yeah.
Hey, who are you? And I'm just like, oh God, dude.
Was one of them Hudak?
No,
Was he
that would have been
instigating
great.
He's a scary dude. I love him, but oof.
He is. He's somebody you want in your corner.
Yeah,
If
he's
shit
always
goes
in my.
down.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk
Just
all the
in
shit
general,
I want. I'm
he's a
like,
good
I
guy.
got him standing
Yeah,
behind me.
he's there behind you. You're like, what you gonna do?
Yeah, I used to be a professional wrestler, right? All right, back the fuck up.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He used to be
I'll bring that up.
jacked.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could. I mean, you could tell he's still. You
He
keep
has
that
some
frame,
old,
that boxy.
He has some like old promo videos. He was like I think he was in a tag team and they were like, their gimmick was that they were Russian. So he used to like do promos in a Russian accent, jacked.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
funny.
I gotta tell Gene about this.
It's
Yeah,
so
Gene's
funny.
Russian, right?
No,
Yeah.
I did not know that. I thought your husband was Bo Nickel. I think I told you about that one night. Like I was at Buzzmill and I didn't see you sitting. I just saw this and he was kind of looking at me because I know him and I'm like, holy shit, I think that's Bo Nickel. And obviously it wasn't. And then I saw Bo Nickel down here like a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
What is Bo Nickel like?
He's a UFC fighter now, but he was like a big college wrestler, high school wrestler that I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he redheaded?
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Gene
Big
gets
redhead dude.
everyone. He gets Ed Sheeran. Gets Bo Nickel. Redheads have this weird quality where it's the same. Oh yeah. Do you get confused with other redheads?
No,
Constantly?
I looked at Gene the other day. I was like, when I was editing the pictures, I was like, if I shaved
Yeah.
and actually, worked out, I don't know.
Yeah,
it
maybe.
would freak me out for a second.
It would freak you out.
Well, it's to the point when I saw Bo Nickel, I looked at him real quick,
You're
and
like,
then I was
Gene?
like, "Must be Gene." And then I looked back, and he had a big black eye. I'm like, "Holy fuck!" It was outside Mothership. I'm like, I was with I was with Sam Prickett, and I'm like, is that fucking Bo Nickel? And I said it really loud. He turned and looked at me. And I was like, oh God.
I'm sorry, Bo Nickel. You're girling. You're like,
literally just did. I was like, I put my hand. I'm like, okay, we gotta go. We gotta go.
But yeah, so Roland, he hangs out in Hambury probably longer than he should while he's fucking Susan. Putting all his friends in danger and shit because the big coffin hunters want him dead.
Yeah.
And so they come in, they try to figure out how to kill him and everything. And then just outside Hambury, Roland makes a monstrous discovery. John Farson and his men have stolen the weapons of the Great Old Ones and now have the oil to power them and launch an attack against the Affiliation, a group which counts among its members Roland's father, Stephen Deschane. And at just the wrong time, the young gunslinger's quartet may be splintering when Cuthbert accuses Roland of cowardice. I feel like whenever I correct her with Discworld shit now.
Yeah, you know how it feels. What's it like?
Not so good now, is it?
This is exactly what I was telling you. This is going to be like the exact opposite. We dragged him through the Discworld. Now he's bringing us through the Dark Tower.
Yeah, this is payback.
Well, it's kind of crazier when you do it because those words are literally made up. They're made up words. Deschane is French, right? And shit like that. But you know words that never existed. And he corrects me on them. And it's like, what? How do you know that?
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, he finds out that he has the oil and all the weapons and stuff to fight the Affiliation, and at just the wrong time, whenever everything seems like it's going to shit, Cuthbert accuses Roland of cowardice and rides off on his own. And I think it's Elaine is the one with
his name is Alain.
Yeah, he's the psychic one.
He has the touch.
The touch.
Which is a thing. It's like the same. They talk about this. The same thing the kid in The Shining has.
Yeah.
And they call it The Shining. It's called the touch.
It's when a pedophile touches you under full moon and to give powers. The touch. The kid touch.
Cuthbert's ability with that.
Got a touch of the touch.
Yeah. A little touched in the.
Touch of the tism.
Yeah. Touch of the
tism.
Yeah.
I did think Cuthbert's ability with that Raven skull to be able to see shit like from up above and shit, or be able to see, like he had some kind of special sense if he had that Raven skull, because whenever he lost it, he knew.
No, that was just, they don't talk about too much of this, but he's like the wise ass of the group, which he ends up being like when Roland in the books gets another cadet, which is another two other people. One of them, Eddie, it reminds her of Cuthbert because he's just making jokes all the time. That skull was just like a thing he had. The other one, Elaine, has like, they call it the touch. So he can like sense stuff and he can kind of see into the future, but not really. Like he can just sense stuff.
Yeah, but whenever he loses that Raven skull and then the other guy finds it, and then I think he either destroys it or he puts it.
No, he uses it as like to frame them.
Right. And Cuthbert can sense that. Like he felt something because of the Raven skull.
I think that was Elaine.
Maybe. I might have got it confused.
No, he just noticed that it was gone.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
And then he, I guess, had a premonition or bad.
Because I remember when they're coming back to the bar tea or whatever it's called, and that he's like, something's going on. I can feel this, clearer than I've ever felt anything. And that's Elaine talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, then the Affiliation, the group composed of Roland's father and his forces, are being lured into a fatal trap in the Shaved Mountains. With the Great Old One's weapons fired up by Hambury's oil, the Affiliation will be wiped out unless Roland Deschane, the gunslinger, can intercede in time. So they, lead him into a giant chasm where the
Eyebolt Canyon.
Where the Thinny is, which is basically like a Cthulhu-esque style tentacle monster thing.
Well,
sort of.
It's just like it's almost like a portal.
It's almost like an emptiness.
Yeah. But there's something inside it, but it can't like come up and it keeps growing. So it's just like, it's like a glowing wall in the canyon.
Right. This is another one of my, I have the note for it and everything. How is there a giant tentacle monster and everyone's surprised by it?
Because it's not a giant it's not a giant tentacle monster. It's just the thing. It's just a thing that exists. Once they trap all those guys into it and they get close enough and it can sense that they're there, then it like the tentacles come out and it like feeds on it.
Okay.
But it's not.
But simultaneously it also kind of seduces them into
you can hear it in your head.
entering the wherever it is or what it is.
Yeah.
My point is there's a giant doorway in a canyon that's known. The canyon's known. People have been there. It's marked on a map.
Yeah.
How do they not know about the tentacle
Because
monster?
they stay away from it. You don't go. The only reason those guys are into it is because they start a fire behind them and they can't get out, and then it just starts like pulling them in. People like they talk about that. People first time Roland and the gang go up to it, they can hear the thing talking to them, and they ride away. It kind of, like in the books they talk about it. Roland almost walks into it at the beginning. Like I think they have to go and like pull him out.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, there's a giant tentacle monster.
No, yeah, that's not.
And like 100 people are surprised by it to the point where they all
they didn't know either. Because they're not from Hambry. These guys are like part of John Farson's army that come just to get the oil and kill the gunslinger. So they don't even know that's there.
True. Yeah. Okay. Roland and his quartet have their long-awaited showdown with Eldred Jonas and the big coffin hunters. Rhea's plan finally comes to fruition with deadly results where, the girl, Susan, fucks Roland and she actually gets pregnant. And then she goes and cuts off her hair, or is about to, but then she gets stopped by
Roland,
yeah.
And then, they get framed, Roland and Elaine and Cuthbert Susan gets framed for the death of...
No, she gets framed for letting them go after they
frame
allegedly...
the boys for killing the mayor.
Yeah.
And then she goes and breaks them out of jail, kills 2 people, gets them out of jail. And they're like, all right, the 5 of us, them and Shimi, the 4 of them and Shimi, they're like, we're going to leave town. And like, you 2 go hide here and we're going to go lure all these guys into the thinny. And then while that's happening, Eldred finds Susan and
burns her.
Gets everyone to whips everyone up into a frenzy. So they're going to burn her alive.
Burn her alive.
The festival.
And then Shimi ends up going into one of those tanks with that cyborg thing and somehow gets superpower. The cyborg gives him some kind of power. Mm-hmm. Is it the ability to teleport? Because it looked like he teleported in the book. Like he was here at one point and then...
Is that in this book or the...
Yeah, it was in that one.
I don't remember that in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like one moment he's in the background and then the next moment he's in the foreground.
I think he can like walk.
Like,
are you sure you're not talking about just different panels?
No. It's the same panel.
Oh, okay.
Within the same panel, he's like in the background and then he comes to the foreground and there's like this gold like swoosh around him. Like it showed him kind of...
I think he can like walk between worlds. Like
that's dope.
He can like I said, there's doors. Doors are a big thing. Like doors will just appear and people can walk through them into another reality or another universe. I think he can just kind of do that on his own.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's so mentally challenged that
he
actually has a superpower.
He just thinks he does that. He doesn't actually.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just looking for cake.
Like, I went to a water slide.
He's just at Six Flags. He's just doing his own thing.
No, yeah, I like that idea of giving like the village idiot like one of the best powers of the whole thing. He
plays a pretty big role throughout.
That's cool.
Shimi?
Yeah.
That's great. I'm interested
later
to see
on,
that.
They talk about this and then he comes back for sure.
Yeah.
Later on, he does. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I've read those.
He's kind of like a Tinkerbell vibe, doesn't he?
Yeah. A little helpful dude.
They don't really get into it too much. They're horrible to him in this, but not the gunslingers, but the people in the town. They are like, his life sucks.
Well, everybody in all these towns is just extremely cruel and petty and spiteful and malicious.
That's why he loves Cuthbert so much, is because he'll just like, he's nice to him. That's it. He just doesn't make fun of him and he's nice to him. And he's like, I'll do anything for him.
They were about to make Shimi lick up the piss bucket or whatever.
Lick his boots.
Luke his boots.
The boots clean of the piss bucket thing or whatever. It might not have been
it was chaw. It's like chewing tobacco.
Oh, chewing tobacco. Yeah, I mean, not any better.
Yeah. No, also very gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then pretty much they go and they get the Thinny kills all those motherfuckers, and then they ride off.
Hey, what do you think the Thinny is, like, from a meta perspective? Like, as Stephen King writing that story, psychologically, what do you think that is
Before
for
we
him?
talk about that,
What
I
do
do
you
think
think's
we're
Thinny?
leaving out a big plot point here is that before they leave, Susan's burned alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like that, they leave as like, they carry Roland out of town because he watches it in the grapefruit as it's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he loses his soul or his mind in the grapefruit.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's
basically, he's in
that
a
is
coma.
like, because I remember reading the book and like, I've read this book, Wizard and Glass, like 4 or 5 times. And it's so good that every time I read it, I get about halfway through and I'm like, all right, this time she's going to live. They're going to have a happy
really?
like literally every time. And then it's like,
But that's not in keeping with this kind of story. This kind of story, like I said, in literature, it's the story of the tortured man. There's no room for women in these stories. These women, unless they're
you're gonna love
unless
the book,
they're like dry ass pussy crones or traitors.
No.
You know what I mean?
That's the great thing about Stephen King is he gets so like, it's so psychological, and this you end up loving this girl, like she thinks she's like your sister or something.
Oh
and
yeah, for sure. That's why she's gonna die.
It just
that just makes her.
destroys you.
She just becomes a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. She's not gonna have an actual role in the story other than for you to see how good she is, so that you know how much Roland lost.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And then because this is like there's 2 people in his life that he gives a shit about when he either lets them die or kills them. I mean, he doesn't let her die. He would have saved her if he could have, but like there's only 2 that he kind of regrets. The rest of them is just kind of par for the course. But this Susan comes up over and over and over again until you get to the 4th book and you actually find out what happened. But that's like, it's a constant thing throughout the books.
Yeah. Okay. So back to my earlier question. What do you think the Thinny is?
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I've seen that in a lot of stories. There's the Neverending Story has the big nothing that's eating the universe. I don't know what other one. I can't think of them right now. Fuck. There's the Dark Crystal. That's another one, right?
Yep.
The world's gonna get destroyed. There's always this big nothing, void thing that's seductive and also
similar to the singularity
aggressive.
from Long Earth.
Yeah, the singularity from Long Earth, right?
I don't know what this
authors always like when they try to think of 2 things. The devil, like in the story, we see the devil, right? The devil is always something that's like insects and flies and deformity. It's always and teeth. Right? It's all the things that we're afraid of about death, right?
Yeah.
So the Satan, you can always see that it's kind of something about death. But this void thing, I always found interesting because I'm always wondering what do you think that is? I think that might be something that's an existential threat.
Yeah,
but it's so complicated that that we don't know how to conceptualize
in this,
it.
I know this is more of like there are these things all throughout this world because the world's kind of coming apart. That's the whole there's this whole thing where if he gets to the Dark Tower, he can put everything back together. But these things are just kind of appearing all over the place as worlds are like emerging. These things are overlapping, and eventually it'll just destroy itself.
Well, that's what I mean. Because I think Satan, the Satan archetype, the devil, like this, and he's an insect, right?
Yeah.
It's all the things that eat your corpse, that make you a corpse, right? Satan. The Thinny, I think that might be a writer's conception of human annihilation, like an annihilation of the species, that we don't know what that's going to look like or be. Or
I was just going to say, or like the fear of the unknown, which is this thing that's like very seductive and it tries to lure you in.
Yeah.
But you don't,
it's our psychological grappling with annihilation because it is seductive in a way, right? To annihilate, to self-immolate.
It's like the call of the void. Like when you
call of the void.
When you like want to jump into a dark, when you want to like jump off a bridge at night, not because you want to kill yourself, but just because you want like something is like, I want to go into the,
Edgar Allan Poe used to call it the imp of the perverse.
Ooh.
That was a good one. And it's all, and he wrote a story about it and it's all about, and I would feel that when I was living in New York for my whole life, actually, when I stand at the edge of the platform and the train would come, you just get that urge to just jump right in front of the train.
Intrusive thoughts.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't want, you know what? I don't like pop psychological terms that kind of almost cheapen that experience, right? Yeah. Whenever people say something like
it's something in your DNA because everyone feels it. There's something about that.
Yeah, it's something about what did you say? The
Intrusive
thoughts. It kind of pathologizes it, and then it makes it something that you can medicate away. But I don't think that stuff is something you can medicate away, because I think that's almost like it's almost like the human condition.
Yeah.
Well,
and if you can medicate away the human condition, but that's just by doing drugs that are so hard that they actually allow you to just not think about anything at all.
I don't
right?
think that term is a bad thing in general. I literally just think it by intrusive thoughts, it means like, the thoughts that kind of just float through, and most people are like, okay, I had that thought,
because I don't feel like it's a part of me. It's not intrusive. It's always there. It's you know what I mean? It's just because it doesn't occur to me in any particular instance to just jump in front of a train, right? The part of me that will think that is here in this room. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there. It's just that there happens to not be a ledge right now.
Right.
And that's kind of it. And I'm not going to do it, but I've always been interested
it's overwhelming at times.
It's interesting. I always wonder about that.
And it's not just you and I. I've read people talking about that. Like, it's something in people's DNA that just makes you want to,
jump.
Yeah.
But I think it's
pretty same thing that made people get in boats.
That's what I'm saying.
And go across an ocean when they didn't know, when literally the map was just said, here be monsters. They had no idea, it
makes us want to go into space.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you just want to jump into a chasm. It's like you just want to jump, you want to fly into the unknown. And that's a fucking crazy thing that we always feel. And that's what I'm saying. Like, let's say there was a drug that would rid you of your intrusive thoughts. But then you wouldn't want to do space exploration. You wouldn't be interested in what's going on in a submarine. You wouldn't be, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't want to jump into shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll take feeling like I want to jump in front of a train if it means that I get to feel like fucking crazy. Like, I want to jump into the sky when I look at the fucking stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what I mean.
Ooh. One thing I used to do whenever I was a kid, talking about jumping to the sky, you lay down on the grass with your back on the grass, and then you hold onto the grass and just imagine yourself falling upwards.
There you go.
That shit feels so weird. Like, it gives you, it's like an instant panic attack.
Yeah.
But like the coolest kind. Like,
that's fucking crazy. You gotta do something about that. That's intrusive thoughts.
Yeah. you should get medicated for that. I feel like. Just gaslighting Clay. Whoa, holy fuck, dude.
No, I think that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I like stuff like that. I like
all right. Well, I think it's about time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that flew by.
That went quick.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was a great fucking book. I'm definitely going to be reading
you guys gotta,
the second.
You got to read the books, too.
I
got
the second and the third graphic novel, and I plan on the next book we're doing is Dune, which is a big fucking book.
That's going to take you a while to read. This is something, don't read it for the podcast, great and talk about, but just read it because it's amazing. And it's like,
oh, I will.
I'm definitely in the world now. So
I read the graphic novel and I read halfway through the actual novel. So I'm probably going to finish that and then get started on the next one.
The Gunslinger?
Yeah.
Arguably, in my
brag.
opinion, not arguably, the greatest opening sentence in any book I've ever read.
Oh, really?
The man in black fled across the desert and Roland followed.
Oh, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I love stuff like that.
Oh.
I read you know what? I'm going to reread that. You might be right. That actually might be really good.
It's known in literary circles as one of the best opening sentences.
Yeah.
Because it's just a sentence and it sums up the entire,
I was
economy
reading
of words. No, like you can't take a word out of that. If you add a word, it's too much. It's perfect.
Yeah. I read one from this autobiography of this Russian dude. And it was, that's a sentence that stuck with me in particular. It was just, is like, she was stiff on the table and wearing a dress I'd never seen on her before. And it was just,
they
good
say
stuff.
it in the graphic novel, but it's like, you wouldn't know because it's like comes along later. But if you've read the book, it jumps out at you right away. But it's like, it's setting up the story. And then it's like the man in black fled across the desert and Roland followed. It's,
fuck yeah.
I love it.
All right.
All right. Well, so yeah, our next book for everybody is going to be Dune. We're going to have another guest, Justin O'Donnell, on the podcast for that one. And for anybody who wants to submit questions for the next book, you can submit them at theturtlereadspod@gmail.com. Thank y'all if y'all want to do that. And Craig, do you have any plugs?
Thank you for your service, podcast. That's my podcast with me,
Hell yeah.
Aaron Cerusi and Andrew Cooksey.
Fuck yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for your service, podcast.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you
And then,
for being a guest.
Also, we
Thank
have our video YouTube, actual videos on YouTube. They're going to be coming out with the episodes. So go and check that out. We start with the Skankfest
Creek and Cave.
at Creek and Cave on YouTube. And yeah, we're going to start off with the Skankfest episode for the videos. So go check that out.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be our debut. And Justin did an amazing job
Hell
at
yeah.
it. Thank you. I appreciate it. No, shut up. It's good.
No, yeah, it's really good.
Being
Fucking
weird. It's great.
the little intro music and shit. It's nice.
Yes.
What
Thank
is this? Is this from when you guys were at Skankfest?
It's the episode
about
we
it.
recorded after Skankfest.
Okay.
We did the book is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, which is like a 10-page real short story, but it was a great podcast. I was really high on shrooms.
That's right. We did shrooms
And
that
he
day.
kept eating more as the episode. He's like eating a chocolate bar. He's just like eating a chocolate bar like it's
Well, they're
nothing. I
talking
was like,
about like existentialism shit. I'm like, I need to get high.
I don't blame you at all. Yeah.
All
Anyway.
right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig, so
Thank
much.
you.
Of course, anytime.
And thank you, Melissa.
thank you, Clay.
No
Thanks for
problem.
listening. Thanks for watching.
Bye.